Okay, so today is 8 January, and here's the update. I'll always give kind of a bottom line up front. In the military, we call that a bluff, or maybe you know it as a TLDR. But today we're covering 5 major topics, things that hopefully you care about or will affect your business. So number 1, federal lawmakers are signaling new attention on small business protections and regulatory burden and what that means for you. Number 2, the Treasury is expanding access to small business financing. That definitely applies to you. Number 3, electrician wages continue to climb sharply, so great for electricians, maybe not great for your business. Number 4, sustainability is becoming a real competitive factor in plumbing and mechanical work, regardless of what you think about the sustainability stuff. This is interesting because it could affect your business. And finally, services industry executives are forecasting stronger revenue growth in 2026. So to dive a little deeper, here's what changed in all of those things. So first, the House Small Business Committee released new guidelines and public statements reinforcing protections for small businesses, particularly around regulatory burden, compliance, complexity, and access to capital. So the message is straightforward. Lawmakers are acknowledging that small businesses, including trades and contractors and everybody in the home services industry, are under pressure from rising costs in their businesses, tighter labor markets, and increasing compliance requirements. So this isn't a law change yet, but it matters to you and your business because it sets the tone for what's coming next. When committees start framing small businesses as overburdened, it often leads to hearings, funding shifts, regulatory clarifications, and law changes down the road. For service business owners, this is especially relevant when it comes to labor classification, compliance risk, and how new rules get enforced within your industry. Number 2 on the list today is the U.S. Treasury announced new actions aimed at expanding small business financing through community lenders and programs designed to reach smaller and rural operators. So the practical takeaway here is that more capital is being directed towards small businesses, not just large companies, large firms, and large businesses. So if you run a trades business and have struggled with access to growth capital or equipment financing or even just working capital, this is another signal that financing options may slowly improve over the next year. This doesn't mean that borrowing gets cheaper overnight, but it does mean that the federal government is actively trying to widen access to funding, which is kind of the first step in that process. Third on the list today is a great one for electricians, maybe not so much if you employ electricians, but the electrician pay continues to rise. So in Wyoming, for instance, Wyoming now ranks 5th in the country for electrician wages, which just made the news today. The average pay, which is well above national levels right now. So this matters even if you're not operating in Wyoming, obviously, because it's coming to every single state. Wage increases in high-demand regions tend to ripple outward. So electrical is already one of the tightest labor markets in the trades, and rising wages there put upward pressure on compensation expectations everywhere else. So for service business owners, this reinforces a key reality. Labor costs are not stabilizing. They probably never will, but they are resetting higher than they ever have been. So if your pricing, staffing plans, or growth assumptions are based on older wage levels, or you're not even accounting for the increase in wage, that gap will show up quickly in your margins, first and foremost, and also in your hiring and retention challenges. Fourth on the list today is sustainability is quietly becoming a real differentiator in plumbing and mechanical work. I never thought I'd say that sentence. This is not opinion-based or political-based. It just kind of is what it is, and it's a sensitive subject because it somehow is politicized, but I think if you're running a serious business, there's a way that this can actually be an advantage for you. So new industry coverage highlights how sustainable plumbing practices, water efficiency, and greener systems are increasingly influencing residential and commercial decisions. So it's based on what the customer wants. And as a business, that's kind of your job. So it's not about buzzwords. It's not about demand and operating costs. Homeowners, builders, and commercial clients are paying more attention to efficiency, long-term savings, and compliance with newer standards based on where they live in the country. For plumbing and HVAC businesses, this creates a huge opportunity, like I mentioned earlier. Companies that understand efficient systems, water-saving technologies, and sustainable upgrades can position themselves as long-term partners, not just installers. And it also helps them answer those "why are your prices more expensive than everybody else?" question. So companies that ignore it may find themselves competing purely on price and racing to the bottom. Fifth and last on the docket today is a broader services industry signal that's worth paying attention to at a minimum. So industry executives are forecasting stronger revenue growth in 2026. In a recent services supply management report, a majority of executives expect revenues to be higher next year or this year in 2026 than they were last year. That doesn't guarantee it'll happen, and they kind of say that every year, but it suggests optimism among people making pricing, hiring, and investment decisions in the broader service economy. So it doesn't guarantee it'll happen, but it suggests optimism among people that are making pricing, hiring, and investment decisions in the broader service economy. So here's the signal to watch. Rising wages, more government attention, expanding financing programs, growing demand for sustainability, and positive revenue expectations all point to the same underlying shift for this year. The trades are becoming more regulated, more professionalized, and more expensive to operate. That favors businesses with structure, pricing discipline, clear expectations of value, etc., and it punishes businesses that rely on outdated assumptions or race to the bottom pricing. So if you run a great business, this is all awesome news for you. That's the update for today. If something changes, we'll always cover it here. This is the Trades Brief.